This is Avoncliff Wood. In Anglo-Saxon times, it was an enclosed, hedged area, probably woodland. The Woodland Trust says the wood is ancient, where pigs dwelt, snuffling for roots, beech mast and acorns. The Woodland Trust, which owns or controls the wood, has shut it, and this is despite it being marked on the OS map as open access land. Open access land is mostly land declared to be open to all to take part in basic leisure activities such as walking, picnicking and so on. If it is proper open access land, it is governed by the Countryside Rights of Way Act. Nearly all of it is marginal land that has no real agricultural or forestry value, what we used to call wasteland. The parts of the wood I wanted to explore were on what is traditionally called a cleave, a word that eventually became the modern word cliff. But a cleave, and cleaves exist all over the country today, is not quite vertical in the same way a cliff is. But it is often what this particular piece of land is, a good one-to-one slope. That is, for every foot I go forward, it rises a foot. So a 45-degree angle, essentially. This is marginal land indeed. You couldn't get a tractor up it, so it is a prime example of land that would be declared open access land. And the OS map backs this up by giving the wood the yellow shaded markings of open access land. So why have the Woodland Trust shut it to the public when it seems it is legally meant to be open to the public? Well, this piece of land, though marked as access land on the OS map, is not recorded as so on the Natural England website, which means it's not land covered by the Countryside Rights of Way Act, which means I can't kick off about it, i.e. writing to my MP and getting really upset. Though upset I still am, enough to do this post. Someone at some point had intended this land to be open access land, as it wouldn't have been recorded as such by the Ordnance Survey. That means that the Woodland Trust, like the National Trust, is an organisation that is trusted nationally to open its land up to the public. So regardless of this, what I can convey is a hostility to an ecology movement that takes human beings out of the environment. As a national organisation, Woodland Trust, are you going to take the idea of public access to ancient woodland seriously? The Woodland Trust has this to say about the closure. The ancient woodland is protected as a living laboratory where we are monitoring the effects of the tree disease ash dieback. It is not open to the public, allowing the dead wood from trees as they decline to provide valuable habitats for bats, beetles and fungi. Now, I can't see why the two things are incompatible, public access and looking at woodland as a laboratory. So, for example, Whiteham, and I've done a video there, is Oxford University land, a massive, great big piece of research, a great big laboratory, and they allow access if you write to them and ask for a permit, a free one, which I did, and they happily gave me a permit. Now, they do put restrictions. I don't think you're allowed to take dogs, but it's a perfect example of an organisation, a valued and an important organisation like Oxford University does take its public responsibilities seriously. I'm in Westwood. It's supposed to be sunny today, according to the forecast. It's one of the darkest days I've been out in. I did actually delay my walk to get a bit of sun, which would improve the photography. But yes, Westwood in Wiltshire, just beneath Bradford on Avon, and we're next to a river here, and this is the Froom. The Froom joins the Avon, and the Froom is both Froom and the Avon are British, that is Welsh names, and Froon means, oh God, I'm going to have to get my notes out, bear with me. Oh. See, I used to do everything by memory. I used to drive my colleagues mad. See, what I'm doing is, this is my notebook, and it's always in my pocket. On one side is for phone numbers, shopping lists, notes of all sorts, reminders, you know, so it's, you know, little sketches for, you know, working on my coal frames in the back garden. And on the other side you turn it over and it becomes a commonplace book, which is very old-fashioned, and it's basically a mini encyclopedia for things that you want to remember that are useful. And each, so this is my index here, my contents page, and we have Chester, Buckland, Newton and Plush Dorset, Newnham. Well, those are obviously, you know, to do with Saxon charters and so on. But then you've got other subjects like Saxon obligations, so I've got a whole page on that, which just useful stuff so that I can come and quote things to you in a proper useful epigrams, and I might do one of those in a minute. But what I've got is the last one, which is Westwood, number 11, page 11, Westwood near Bradford-on-Avon. And oh God, I've written down what's it. Yeah. So Froom is a British name meaning fair, fine, brisk. This is according to Eccles Encyclopedia Dictionary, and in Welsh is Frau. Apologies for the pronunciation. I make no claims to be a Welshman. But what was interesting is Frau is recorded for the Dorset Froom. And it is, but it's in this area. It's Fram. The earliest record is Fram, and that's from 701. Yeah, so this is it's a pretty stream even in the middle of winter. It's well, it's a river, and so what's interesting about this charter? This is the Charter of Westwood. There's a couple of things interesting. One, it made up part of Selwood, which is the ancient forest of Wiltshire, one of the ancient forests of Wiltshire. Massive word. Selwood probably means wood of the sallow, but it would have been mostly oak in the Dark Ages. Oak on clay and flint, or just clay. So it seems to be related to how much woodland there is in this area. It seems to be related on its geology more than anything else. So that's one part of it. So we're seeing a snapshot of an ancient forest, a royal forest, and then it goes on to describe. I was just looking at the bounds, and I'm getting reasonably good now at reading. I just read them now. And even if I don't fully understand it, I get a really good gist. But we've got what is mentioned as Bæræ Hæhgæ, and yes, we have a new hedge, but according to the satellite photographs, I'm not going to see a hedge. I might. There's a tiny weeny bit. So it might be worth having a look at species. But also the Ordnance Survey has the letters BS in capitals and a little s, which means boundary stones. So we might see something old there. So we'll get around there in a minute. But more importantly is it gives us one extra word of information about what was within that. Hæhgæ is a hedged enclosure in Old English. What was behind that hedged enclosure? Well, it gives us a clue. Is Bæræ, which means a grove that is for pigs, and it is, you know, the Boar enclosure basically, which is fascinating because we've got that snapshot of, if your mind's anything like mine, you'll see a Dark Age person tending to pigs in a hedged woodland. And it's it's those details in the charters that bring this alive. And there's more. There's it also mentions a strat, and I had no knowledge whatsoever of there being a Roman road in this area. This is the joy of the Saxon charters. See, there's quite a division between us amateur antiquarians and not so amateur antiquarians, between Romanists and Anglo-Saxonists, and I'm in many ways more a Romanist than I am an Anglo-Saxon, but there aren't Roman and Welsh charters for every village in England. There aren't for the Anglo-Saxons, but there's a good half in the south of England. And so it gives me information that touches, it borders on it, the Anglo-Saxon period and the overlap. And the Roman period, there were Germanic federati in Gloucestershire on the Thames Valley, and we know they were there earlier than they should have been. And that is because the Romans invited them in, because they were having trouble with the Scots and the Irish, and they needed protection. The best, the flower of British, Romano British culture went to France after the collapse of the Roman Empire in Britain. They needed protecting, and we can see that violence in the archaeological records. There's all sorts of settlements with violent death, graves of people who met a violent death. So anyway, there's a division between Romanists and Anglo-Saxonists. That the Romanists seem to look at a Roman road and look only at typology. Does it have an agger? Does it have two ditches down each side? Is it straight? Whereas the Anglo-Saxonists among us, which I may not be at heart an Anglo-Saxonist, but my methodology tells us there are all these roads that aren't on Roman road maps, and they're recorded by the Anglo-Saxons who lived here and could see the landscape 1,200 years earlier than we can. So we have another one. I'm not going to do it on this video where the strat is, because I haven't quite fully worked it out, and there's some other interesting stuff over there that I could put together in another video, so it'll give me a little bit more time to get my ducks in a row. But I wanted to go and have a look at our grove, our Boar Grove. Have a look at the river Froom, and the Froom meets up with the Avon around the corner over here, the Bristol Avon, so give you a little bit something else to look at. I was going to go up there. Now the words Avoncliff, which is the name of this wood today, should have given me a clue how steep it was. I thought on the map, looking at the map, I thought it'd be something like 1 to 3, which will be tough, but doable. Now, of course, I can do it, but I'll be on my hands and knees. That's a scramble, not a walk. But it is, yes, Avoncliff should have given me a clue, and yeah, how annoying. But there is. Let's see what we can see from the edge. So that wood up there, Avoncliff Wood, is marked on the map as open access land. Do-gooders have decided to close it because of ash dieback instead of managing chopping down the dead trees, lying them on the ground, making it safe for people. They've decided to close it, and it looks like they're going to close it for some time because they put a beautifully printed permanent signpost up saying this. I don't see why they have the right to do that. For starters, they've put the idea of letting life or death in nature above the right of citizens to access open access land. It is quite annoying, very much. I don't see that. It's a really poor decision. But apart from that, I have the problem of not being fit enough to get up there. So, but up there should be boundary stones, as it says in the on the map, hopefully. But these things aren't accurate anymore. The Ordnance Survey repeats what's on previous maps, even though the situation has changed on the ground. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to come here and work out the truth of the matter. But yes, so I've been defeated by A, my own skills, and B, a group of useless do-gooders.